Welcome to the M1 podcast, set up to provide features and stories up and down and in and around the M1. Relax and listen. If you enjoy, please share and like. We know that the road to Damascus has an important place in the history of Christianity. Today in this episode, we talk about the road from Damascus and the road to Drogheda in particular, because I'm joined by Adam Jazi, who lives in Drogheda now, to discuss his journey as a refugee from Syria and the experience of Syrians in Ireland. We start, however, with a reflection on what's going on in Lebanon, because Lebanon's right next to Syria, and Syria is also right next to Israel on the one side and Iraq on the other, and it's been in civil war for the last 13 years. In the last episode, we talked of the role of Gormanston Army Camp as the induction centre for all Defence Forces recruits. Currently, there are 389 Irish soldiers based in Lebanon. So in discussing the road from Damascus and Syria more generally, it is important to discuss the situation there. So Adam, thanks very much for joining me. I'm interested to talk to you about your journey from Damascus to Drogheda, but obviously being from Damascus, that's quite close to Israel, isn't it? It's near the border, and Israel is in a conflagration, I suppose, first of all with Hamas and now Hezbollah. A lot of people displaced and killed in the last number of weeks and in the last year since 7th of October. You've come from Damascus, you've been living in Ireland for the last 9 years. What's your perspective on the situation now?
All right. First of all, thank you for having me here. And I would say this is the question of the moment. To be clear, these conflicts started since 70 years when Israel occupied the land of the Palestinians, and they called this state at that time Israel. And it have been a lot of wars, fights between the countries around Palestine and Israel since 1948. Then there was another war in 1967, 82, and 2000, 2006 till now. For the Syrian part, Israel also occupied a part, the southern part of Syria, which we call it the Golan Heights, and it's still occupied by the Israelis. There is another part of Lebanon as well occupied by Israel, and of course, most of Palestine. Unless there will be a solution for the whole area, I would say the conflict will go on. And there is a lot of UN resolutions. The last one was 1701, but it's as I said, unless you have a consistent and full plan for the whole area, I would say the conflict will go on. About the Arab countries and the leaderships there. Most of the leaderships have been in the power since 60s, are a kind of dictatorship. They came from the army and they controlled the power, and they took by force the authority. A lot of restriction to the political work, so they control all the power, all the authority, all the money, and it was before that.
And the war against Israel in 67 was about.
They promoted they will be able Syria and Egypt, Lebanon, and other countries. They promoted to their people that we will clear Israel and will get back the Palestine, but it was like a big lie because they were not able to face and to handle this big mission. On the contrary, at that war, it was they call it the 5 days war. Israel won the war and occupied most of the territory.
It's interesting that you say that even though they're dictatorships or autocratic regimes, that even at that time, but the people were on board with their aims in trying to fight Israel out of existence, I suppose. Was there no sympathy to Israeli people at the time? Well, I know that Israel is, today it's a different story, but at that time there would have been many Holocaust survivors who would have fled to what was Palestine, what became Israel, and the anti-Semitic purges in Eastern Europe and the former Soviet Union after the war was confirmation that Jews have nowhere safe to go, and the idea of Israel became very real. I remember reading something about Zionism that in the early 20th century it had very little support amongst Jewish people, but now it's intertwined with Judaism. If you're a Jew, you're probably a Zionist. Whereas that wasn't always the case, but the Holocaust changed that. What was the perspective of people in the Middle East towards the Holocaust?
Look, it's like before the Jews used to live in Palestine side by side with the Muslim and Christian, and the same of Syria as well. So, for example, like myself, my family used to be neighbors with the Jews in Damascus. So it was a peace between all those people. Zionist is something different, and I'd say that there is no even 1% of anti-Semitism in Arab world, because they call them our neighbors, our relatives.
In 1948, you were saying that before then, the relationship between Jews in Palestine and Arabs was quite good.
Yeah, because they live together in the same country.
You grew up in Syria, and Syria at one stage was colonized by France. Was that right?
Yeah.
And when did it become independent?
1945.
After the war?
Yeah.
And was there a sense of liberation, freedom, democracy? Was that the mood at the time, or what happened?
The mood, yes, exactly. The mood was freedom, and the people were eager to build a democratic country on similar to the European countries, and there was a kind of real development there, and there was a parliament who is elected by the people, and the president who is elected also by the parliament. So the whole democratic process started after the occupation of France till the 60s or the early 60s, when the army turn on the democratic process and they took the power, and we stuck from that time till today with the dictatorship.
Your father was quite political in his life, and he only passed away a couple of years ago, didn't he? Tell me about your father.
My father was a member in the Communist Party in Syria, Damascus, and he was a teacher for English language as well. So he was able to read a lot of books in English, and he was well educated. He's a writer and translator. But to work in politics in a country like Syria, where you are not allowed even to criticize the appearance of the president, not the politics of the president. It is a big challenge. All the disasters came from the leadership in the area. And to be honest, it didn't came from Israel, it came from the leadership
in
Syria, Lebanon, and the other Arab countries, because the power is controlled by those gang, let me say, and you are not allowed the country to be improved or to develop. They put people, unqualified people. They are requesting the loyalty, full loyalty to the leadership, rather than the qualifications. So after like years, the economy of Syria went down, and the social situation and the social protection as well, it went down.
Why was the army able to take over, and then they installed Bashar al-Assad? His father was the first.
Even before Hafiz al-Assad, it's a kind of also West responsibility, I would say. It's like they allowed those leadership to control the countries. West at that time, and when I'm saying about West, I mainly mean like United States, France, and UK. They want leadership to be in this area, to be controlled by them and loyal to them, rather than to have a democratic regimes there, and they must be kind of written to the.
And what was the view of the democratic regime in the late 50s and early 60s that was in Syria?
They couldn't resist. Like when you are the leader of the army, then it is very easy for you to go and to arrest the prime minister and the whole government, and they did that many times. They did that. They put them in the jails, and they took the power, and they controlled the countries, and they stole everything, because they only care about like how to steal the money from the government and the people.
And so you grew up in the 1980s, I suppose, and your father was politically active, and it was an autocratic regime then. We've only learned in the last sort of 10, 15 years about what Assad is like now, but it was an autocratic society then, and your father was politically active.
Yeah.
So what was that like, and then what was your family life like, and then how did you grow up?
It was, I would say they were romantic people, like my father and his comrades or colleagues, because it was a dream. Like socialist and communist was a kind of dividing the income of the country to everybody, and to live equal. But in a country like from the Middle East, it is a kind of unrealistic dream as well, because imagine like the whole country is controlled by the army and the dictatorship, and you have this dream, how to do it, how to struggle, how to manage. It was a bit difficult to hold a meeting with your colleagues, rather than to get the power to get rid of this gang. So I would say it was like a lot of dreams, a lot of meetings, a lot of inspiration. But if you ask me now about that atmosphere, I'd say that was unreal, or it's almost a romantic one.
Well, we know that now.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like at least they tried, because if you just give up and flee, or just give up and stay, they win. Talk about them being romantic. You're a bit of a romantic yourself, because you have an idea of an arts cafe, but you had an arts cafe in Damascus. Can you tell me actually how you got to that and what that was about? So I suppose like you.
As I told you, because there was no way to work in politics, there might be the only other alternative is to work in a kind of culture. So the reading or the writing or promoting art is allowed. First of all, was allowed there, and the second, this is my passion as well. So I established that cafe just to gather people together. 2009. and there we used to have a gallery, sessions, library, and music live, and discussions. It was a kind of a small culture center.
And you ran it as a business, so
Yeah, I did.
Your money. How did you make your money out of that?
Because it's like it's a bar, a restaurant, and a cultural event. Yeah,
That's interesting.
Yeah.
And you have that idea to deliver something like that here.
This is also a kind of a dream, because it's a kind of happiness when you gather people together in art or in culture, on poetry. Like it's when you see them engaging with this.
It's good.
It's amazing. Yeah.
And what were you doing before 2009?
I used to work with like I studied economy.
Okay.
And it was like a few companies I used to work, and for like few years I worked as a journalist as well in the economy field.
Okay.
So it's not criticizing the
You were saying about your father and his views and your views, and we know that. But one interesting thing you were saying about him is that when the Arab Spring developed, he was not fully supportive of that. In fact, he kind of was opposed to it, wasn't he? Didn't agree with what the protesters were doing.
Yeah, it is a kind of like that was a discussion in the whole country, because in order to have a movement, a kind of, let's say, a revolution, you need to have a leadership. You need to have a kind of committee, a kind of party to lead the people.
Yeah.
And because the political life was not existed in Syria, so there was no party who is like eligible to lead the people. So that's why my father and other people said like it is going nowhere, because unless you have this organized and educated party to lead, the people will go anywhere. Like, and that's what happened. It's like.
So there's huge frustration with the way things were, corruption, poverty.
Yes,
but
of course.
It was just an emotion. People came out on the streets, but they had no concrete demands as to what they wanted. Was that the issue?
Yeah, exactly.
And so
the people of the Arab country have the same dream, like they get rid of the dictatorship they have. So it was an inspiration, like why Syrians don't have like the same movement and to get rid of the dictatorship at that time. So people like called each other and they went to the street to protest, but they were faced by the army very strongly.
And it was probably most brutal in Syria as compared to anywhere else. It was brutal in Egypt, Bahrain and other places, and Libya, of course. But Syria, the regime reacted with horror, didn't they?
Yeah, it was like much different than the other countries. And look, regarding to the Egypt, Tunisia, and other countries, like the regime was not able to stand, and they didn't. In fact, use the weapons and the live weapons and the army to fight the people. But in Syria, it happened. Straight away. Yeah. So that's why in Egypt, the president Hosni Mubarak announced like he's leaving the power, and also Zain al-Abidin Ben Ali in Tunis. The same of other countries, but Syria no. They kept the power in hand, and they used the army to fight people.
Like those soldiers or those helicopter pilots, they would have brothers and sisters in the towns and villages. You know, they are of the people, aren't they?
It is a bit different in Syria, because it's. I don't want to use the civil war, because it was not at the beginning, but it turned to the regime. It was, and still very evil, divided the society into ethnic and religion groups.
Okay.
Like, because there is, as in Christianity, there is Catholic and Protestant, etc. In the Islam, there is Sunni, there is Shia, there is Alawi, etc. So, and because the regime was aware about, like, people are not happy with what he's doing, so he armed from one group, ethnic group or religion group, to his side, and pretend that he's protecting them and he's looking after them. So that's how, like, the conflict started to be very dangerous, because now it's people against people rather than all people against the regime.
And then 2012, I suppose you had some foreign actors that started to get involved, whether it was other Arab regimes arming Islamic groups.
It was the responsibility of the regime himself, because, as I said, it's a very evil plan. He freed the arrested Islamic group. They were in the jail in Syria, because they are a political parties as well. So they were not allowed to work, and the regime put them in jails that time. But when the movement started, so he thought it would be a very good idea to let these people out of the jails to get into the conflict, and it was a time for him to show the world, like, look, those protests or this movement is Islamic radical one, and I am the one. Yeah, exactly.
But it was a callous disregard for human life that he exhibited, didn't he? I remember, like, because right up to 2015, it seemed like the regime might fall. It seemed like whatever the opposition had become in 2010-11, it was protest movements on the streets. 2012-13 alliances, it was the Syrian Free Syrian Army, I think it was called, and then Kurdish forces, and then 2013-14 you had the arrival of the Islamic State, which is just made things more complicated, I guess. And then 2015 the Russians rescued Assad's regime, didn't they?
Exactly. At that point, I would say it was a very critical moment, because like, the opposition started to be supported by other Arab countries, and the Islamic groups got involved in the leadership of the opposition, and it was risky for the regime at that point to continue fighting alone.
Yeah.
So he asked the Russia to get involved and to support him, and in fact Russia rescued the regime.
Yes.
And now, but at that point I can't guess what is going to happen, but now maybe I would say it was a good decision to get Russia involved in this war, because I can't imagine what would happen if these radical Islamic radical groups controlled the country. It was they were looking for a freedom because of the dictatorship, and now they have another kind, worse dictatorship.
And they had become the leadership of the opposition by virtue of having arms and military equipment.
Yeah, they do.
And they did, I suppose, or they do.
Yeah, they are armed, and they built jails rather than to build hospitals and schools and etc. So it's the same mentality, the same of the regime policy as well.
And so what's it like to be obviously I don't think you've had a chance to go back there, but I don't know if you've got it. What's it like to be there in Syria now in different cities?
It's like, as you said, it's different cities, like, because the northwest is controlled by the Kurds, the northeast controlled by those Islamic groups.
I think it's the other way around. Is it the northeast is Kurdish?
Yes.
And the northwest is over towards Lebanon, Turkey border.
Yeah. And the rest is the regime. And now the south, there's a peaceful movement in a city called the Suwaida in the south. And the regime now is low. He lost maybe more than 40% of the Syria.
Yeah.
And it's not only like the Kurds are supported by USA and the radical Islamic group are supported by Turkey and everybody now in Syria. So it's like where you want to return back. If you return back to the
where would you go?
Like it's like very difficult to choose an area because everything is.
And is there a living to be made for people? Like I think you were saying the electricity is only on for a few hours a day.
A few hours a day. It's even in the city center. It's like 2-3 hours.
Do you think whatever about Assad, but let's say the people 2 or 3 layers, 4 layers removed from him who ultimately supported his regime, do you think at this stage, 2024, they might have a sense of regret about how they behaved in the past?
I would say as long as it is a kind of religious or ethnic war, it will not end up.
When you were before the conflict, if you grew up in the 1980s, I think there was free primary school, free secondary school, for everybody.
Yeah, for everybody.
And was Syria considered a relatively well-educated country?
It is. Well, it's like a kind of. It's free. I agree. The health sector is free as well, but like the quality is not high.
Okay.
It's if you go to the public hospital in even Damascus, it will be a bit risky to get any kind of a real support.
Yeah.
And unless you go to the private sector, then you pay a lot of money, then you get what you want.
But
so the corruption is everywhere. It's starting from the primary school till the president office.
Just going back to mine, 2015 I think was the year Russia came in, started bombing the opposition stronghold areas, and 2015 was the year when people really flowed out of the country, wasn't it?
Yeah. The big wave started in 2015.
Well, Angela Merkel then said, we can do it. We can cope.
We can turn our face to the refugees, then we accept them. Yes.
And was that when you left?
Yes.
And what was going through your mind at the time?
Not much, because you just want to run. You just want to rescue yourself and your family. It's a kind of to survive. It's run to survive. So
you had your arts cafe established 2010, the Syrian Spring, Arab Spring 2011. Chaos ensues for a few years, but you stuck around. You stayed there.
I did, yeah, because there was a lot of international lies as well. Like, because United States also said it's not allowed to bomb the people. It's not allowed, and this is a red line. And Obama said, I will not accept that. So people thought like there will be a solution. And also Turkey, many times the president of Turkey said, no, this is not allowed. I will not allow this. And it was like all those.
And then there was that bombing of 1,300 civilians with chemical weapons.
Exactly, yes. And nothing happened, nothing at all. So people realized at that time they will not be saved. They will not be rescued by anyone. So it's it's up to you rather to die in or to leave.
I've been to Greece since, but I remember watching the news reports at the time. It was the holiday resorts, Izmir, Lesbos, and the islands, those Greek islands. That's on the one hand you had people sunbathing on the beach, and on the other hand you had little rubber dinghies. You're arriving from short coastal locations, short distance away, with people coming from Syria, and that was the story of 2015, the big wave.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's interesting to say about Germany, because I remember a lot of people wanted to go to Germany. What do you think was in people's minds? I want to go to Germany. Why was that?
Like, first of all, Germany welcomed the refugee. They announced that refugees are welcome in Germany. And at that time they called Angela Merkel as a mother Angela. And we can't deny like the Germany economy at that time was like the strongest in Europe. It is a very big country. There is a lot of opportunity for people to start a new life and to have jobs and to integrate into a new society. So that was a dream for like most of the refugees who came from Syria.
And you ended up coming to Ireland. How did that come about?
I have a different perspective because it's like I'd say there's something in common between Syria and Ireland, because since like as you said, like when I was just a kid or teenager, I used to hear the news coming from Ireland and about the conflict was going there. And we, like my family, especially my family, used to have a huge empathy with the people of Ireland against the occupation, because this is a very sensitive matter to the Syrians in general. When you have occupation, then you feel empathy with other nations who have the same suffering. So it was an option either to go to UK or other country or to Ireland. It's like just to find a place to go, and I chose Ireland.
You managed to do that,
and it was a good choice, by the way.
Yeah, you're happy here.
I am.
And you've that was 8-9 years ago, and you've since been able to assist other, because you speak English very well, thanks probably to your dad. Is it? Other Syrians don't have the language, or they arrived, and you've been able to help them over the years. How has that been?
Well, first of all, I need to like my English still need to be improved. Like I feel it's not up to the level, but I was like able maybe better than others other Syrians to speak and to read English. And I did, since I arrived, I actually support a lot of them to with knowledge, with the translation, with the interpretation, and like because they received post, they can't read, they can't figure out what's going on. I did that.
Arabic writing. I'm not sure what languages they speak.
Exactly.
So Arabic writing and English writing completely different. Yeah,
very different. Yeah.
That's hard. And so. Like there's quite a few thousand of Syrians that have come to Ireland, and maybe some who are here a few years at this stage. How are they? You can't obviously generalize, but are they getting on? Are they succeeding in life, or are some people finding it difficult? Or
I would say it was not easy for the people who came, and also for the Irish community, because like to make people integrate into a new society, it is a very long process, and it needs a very special and different attitude. It's you need to accept the values and the beliefs and traditions, etc. This is the way to start integrating in the society. Unless you accept the new culture in general, then you will not be able to integrate well. And from my point of view, I would say it's not working well till now to let people integrate into their new society, their new communities, because there is a big the language barrier is very huge, and the attitude as well. It's like feeling they have a different perspective for all the issues. And from the other side, it is also not easy for like the locals to accept that, because like you are coming into our country, taking some house or a kind of like social welfare payments, etc. So to change this attitude, you need to work on it more.
They probably didn't know where they're coming to, did they? Like, you knew something about Ireland because of the news you saw in the 1980s.
It's a kind of lottery rather than their choice.
Yeah.
They have been told like you are going to, maybe before like a month or two, you are going to Ireland, and to most of them, it's like, where is Ireland and what is Ireland exactly? They don't have any idea. So it's like when they arrive also, it's like a new country, new language, new culture, and with the literacy.
How are the kids doing down at school?
Take into consideration, like most of them spent years in the camps in the countries around Syria, Lebanon, especially Lebanon. No school. They were not allowed. There was no access to the schools or to the healthcare or to any kind of social protection. So they have been out of the schools and out of the work, and they came with like no background about the country, and it is not easy for them.
So that's the experience for them. You're talking about your knowledge of Ireland from the 1980s, and a report from a bomb in Belfast or shooting in Derry.
Yeah, exactly. I came from different atmosphere, as I told you. Like
your father.
The family is educated, and the whole atmosphere is very different.
So that's what happens. You know, you destroy a society. You don't let people live.
Yeah.
You force them. They're living in tents. Then they end up living in another country in the west of Europe, and they're not able to function.
Yeah. Exactly.
And how, when you interact with our kids, how are they doing in the local schools?
And their kids.
Yeah.
Better.
Yeah.
Better than them. At least they start learning the English from the school. I know that they don't have any educational support at homes, but still they can talk, they can read, with difficulties, but they will be able to at least to communicate with the community. Yeah.
Trying to learn Irish, for example.
Yeah, for example.
It's a compulsory subject.
It's not easy.
Do you foresee a time where we ever get back to Syria for a holiday, maybe, or?
I would love to. It's like since I was there, I used to feel I am, and the people like me, we are outsiders. It's like we don't belong to the culture there, because like we are looking for freedom, for democracy, for different.
Do you feel at home here?
Yeah. It's like people of Ireland are like, I would say maybe the most kind people in Europe, with the smiley attitude and greeting all the time. For myself, I have a very good experience living here.
You would hope at some stage to be able to make a return trip to.
Yeah, it's a kind of you'll be like missing your home country, the food, the family, the friends is something like
While a lot of people have left, some people are still there.
Yeah, of course. Like not everybody left at the end of the day, but still, I have these connections. I have rest of my family is there. So,
Can you tell me about your experience living in Drogheda? What's that like? So, I entitled this episode "The Road from Damascus to Drogheda."
Yeah.
So, is it the revelation is it Saul had on the road to Damascus?
Yeah, correct. It's like, as you know, the first church in the world was in Damascus, the old city of Damascus, and that's at the beginning called the St. Paul Church, and from there Christianity took its way to Europe.
Okay.
As you know. But like comparing Damascus to Drogheda, Damascus is more than maybe 5 million population, and to come to a city like I was in Longford before.
Yes.
And it was a very quiet, small city or town. And when I moved to Drogheda, I felt like, my God, this is a city. At least there's it is not million, but it is at least 50,000 people here, and there's a lot of shops, supermarkets, cafes, restaurants, etc. So I would say I was very happy to move to Drogheda, and Drogheda is a nice city with nice people, nice neighborhood as well.
Yeah. Adam, thanks very much.
Thank you.
We've covered a lot of ground there, from the current situation in Lebanon and its history and the perspective of what might be. And it looks like what might be is more war and conflict. We explored what happened in Syria, from the hopes in early democratic years following World War II to the takeover by the military in the 1960s, through to the dictatorship of Assad. And we further explored what happened in the Arab Spring and afterwards. I hope that you found this episode of interest. I certainly did. If you like what we do on the M1 podcast, please do like and subscribe. Stay with us for episodes coming up, where we'll be looking at topics of interest for those of you who are up and down and in and around the M1. I'm Garrett Mullen, and this is the M1 podcast, and thank you to David West for sound and editing.